I've been tinkering with the rest of season rankings over there on the site. And after week 4, here are the players I'm moving up, starting with Jordan Addison. To be honest with you, I'm not moving him up a ton. We're going to go from the smallest movers to the largest movers in this video. But with Addison, obviously, great game. Nice to see him back and healthy. You get the 23-point contest. Now, I will say I am set to absolutely crush an underdog drafts if Addison comes out and if he continues to do this going forward. I'm praying it happens, but in reality, this is going to come back down to earth dramatically. I mean, here, I don't want to sit here and continue to say, oh yeah, Sam Darnold's gonna maybe one day wake up and turn back into Sam Darnold. Clearly, Vikings are 4-0. Darnold has been playing some of the best football in the NFL, but even just looking at the underlying volume, you had 4 targets for Jordan Addison week 1, obviously gets injured, but this week, 4 targets. Right. So it'd be very different if Addison come out, dropped 23 points off of a game where he played 80% of the snaps and ended up seeing 9 targets in this offense. Super efficient, low volume game. So I do expect that we have some natural regression. I moved Jordan Addison up to the wide receiver 42 in my rest of season ranks. He's in the same range as Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman Jr., Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. I know wide receiver 42 sounds low, but there are just a lot of good receivers. Going over to what we have with our next wide receiver. Deontay Johnson was obviously on this video last week. He already had the massive explosion up with the offense just changing its overall identity from a JV team to a varsity team, from Bryce Young to Andy Dalton. Here, yet again, Deontay Johnson dominates with target volume. He has 13 targets in the game with no Adam Thielen. He has 83 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown. Yet again, the Panthers offense is a lot better than it was with Bryce Young. I moved Deontay Johnson up to be that must-start guy every single week. We can reevaluate when Thielen comes back in, but right now he's wide receiver 20, right in the same range as Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Ayuk, and Devontae Adams. Now, going over to the Packers players, we're going to look at the combo of Jayden Reed and Jordan Love. We can obviously talk about the other receivers like Dontavian Wicks. We'll have a waiver wire video coming out tomorrow to talk about Wicks in depth, so just make sure you're subscribed if you want to see that. But nonetheless, let's just focus in on the wide receiver one here. Jayden Reed, obviously, massive buy low candidate last week for us. The main reason being is you were expecting Jordan Love to come back into this offense and for them to shift their mentality from a team that was looking to run the ball, to all of a sudden the passing volume was going to be through the roof. That's exactly what happens. 389 passing yards with Jordan Love under center. Now, obviously, weird game environment where they fall behind big to Minnesota. They are really abandoning the run early in this game. I do expect that the passing volume may come down just a bit from this point. I don't know if Jordan Love's going to have 54 passing attempts, 389 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns in every single game. But nonetheless, Jayden Reed does lead this team yet again in fantasy points with 27 fantasy points. He has 8 targets, 139 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. Plus, you have the injury to Christian Watson, which is going to be opening up even more targets for Jayden Reed, as well as Dontavian Wicks, who, like I said, we'll talk about the waiver wire video tomorrow. Looking at my rankings, we moved up Jayden Reed to be that low-end wide receiver 2. Wide receiver 26 in the same range as Puka Nacua, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, and Xavier Worthy. We'll talk about Worthy in just one second. And then with Jordan Love, we moved Jordan Love up to QB 10. He is honestly maybe only moving ahead of Anthony Richardson in the rankings, but still QB 10 right alongside these other quarterbacks that should have a lot of passing volume but no rushing upside, similar to Dak Prescott. Now let's move over to a wide receiver that obviously is absolutely crushing, that I would like to move even higher, but I just don't know how we could. Nico Collins has been phenomenal. I traded away Nico Collins in the Flock League. I needed a running back. We did it before week 1. Love the guy. Took him in the middle of round 2, but sadly, I'm regretting every single day not having this player on my team. Nico Collins, 3 straight weeks, double-digit targets. The game with no Tank Dell, he has 15 targets. Nico Collins is averaging over 10 targets a game with some of the most efficient quarterback play that you're going to have in the entire NFL. Nico Collins is averaging over 20 fantasy points per game in a season where passing is down across the board. The man's averaging 120, 130 receiving yards per contest. What is nuts about this with Nico Collins is, while he's at the very top of fantasy points scored at the wide receiver position, he's not doing this off of touchdowns. We know touchdowns are going to be very volatile from week to week perspective. What you want to chase is you want to chase opportunity in good offenses with good, talented players. And Nico Collins has only scored 2 touchdowns so far this season off of 43 targets. We are set up for Nico Collins to see more touchdowns going into the future. We are set up with Nico Collins to steal some of those away from Stephon Diggs. He looks like a locked and loaded top 5 wide receiver every week. I have him penciled in right between Jamar Chase and Tyreek Hill. Now, once Tua is back, I probably prefer Tyreek Hill at that point, but obviously you have no Tua for the short term. And if you're looking at the expectations with Tyreek with no Tua, like his underdog pick'em is 49.5 receiving yards this week, which, I mean, you have Nico Collins tripling this. But of course, if you wanted to check out that pick'em, or if you're new to Underdog Fantasy, you can actually get a Tyreek Hill free pick, more than less than half a total yard for the game tonight with promo code FLOCK. Code FLOCK will also get you a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000 and a free team review in the live streams, which we are doing every single night through flockfantasy.com. You can find that link in the description as well as the comment section. But moving this over to our next player, we are going to have Justin Fields. Now, with Justin Fields, this was the first chance that we had to see him in a game where the Steelers fell behind early and were forced to actually throw the ball. Here you have a game where Justin Fields has 34 pass attempts. And with those 34 pass attempts, obviously, you have significantly more dropbacks. You have 10 carries at the same time for Justin Fields here. And with those 10 carries, he has 55 rushing yards and a season high 2 rushing touchdowns. So you have 17.5 points just from running the football with Justin Fields this week. Let alone you are getting the 300 passing yards and the passing touchdown. Fields ends up dropping 32 points depending on your scoring format. And going into the future, I think we can say that there may be a few more games that look like this for Justin Fields. Because while, yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers started off 3-0, they look great. They played the Denver Broncos. They played the Chargers with no Justin Herbert. They played the Atlanta Falcons with Kirk Cousins' first game ever in Atlanta. So there's a chance that maybe the Steelers aren't as good as their 3-0 record indicated. Going into a matchup like the Dallas Cowboys this next week, you could possibly sit here and go, okay, well, Dallas could very easily win this game. Dallas may be favored in this game on Sunday night. And in that environment, do we get another 40 dropbacks for Fields? Where I was previously saying he's not running the ball as much as he did in Chicago. I think the hesitation that you have with Fields is they just weren't really dropping him back that much in weeks 1 and 2 and leaning on the run. Now let's go over to Travis Kelce. Now Kelce comes out this week. You have the best game of his season. 89 receiving yards, the 9 targets, and the 7 receptions. Season highs across the board, about 16 points. And we know that 16 points coming from the tight end position is equivalent to about 48 points coming from wide receiver. So going into the future, I'm not moving up Kelce in our rankings because of this one game. The reason Kelce is being moved up in these ranks is solely based on the assumption that Rashee Rice is done for the year. At the time of this recording, we don't have official word just yet. Obviously, I'll be live streaming every single night, giving you injury updates as we get them. But it does appear that Rashee Rice tore the ACL, that Kelce will be stepping in as the guy here. Because we know Worthy, we'll talk about in 1 second, is more so going to be the deep field option, where Kelce can be the chains mover, or at least you're hoping that's what he can be. Now, I did move him ahead of Brock Bowers and Kincaid, but I still have Trey McBride ahead of Travis Kelce rest of season. Now going over to Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels clearly jumps Mahomes, where Daniels at this point is averaging over 50 rushing yards per game. He's averaging a rushing touchdown per game. And we always talk about with these rushing quarterbacks, oh, draft Jayden Daniels because even if he's bad in real life, he can still be good in fantasy because his rushing statistics. Well, what happens when that player is not bad in real life? What happens when you get the floor of the rushing and he turns out to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, at least through the first 4 weeks? Right now, you're sitting here with, looking at this, it doesn't look real. The past, we can go all season here. You had 7 incompletions week 1, 6 incompletions week 2, 2 incompletions week 3, 4 incompletions week 4. Jayden Daniels is completing well over 80% of his pass attempts right now. This Commanders offense honestly looks unstoppable. Daniels looks phenomenal. You get the rushing upside added on. I'm still going to have the other top rushers that we have a larger sample with ranked ahead in Jayden Daniels' rest of season, such as Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. But now Jayden Daniels is moved up to quarterback 4 here in these rest of season rankings. He's ahead of Mahomes, he's ahead of Kyler, and he's ahead of Stroud. Now let's move this over to a little trio of rookie wide receivers. That's going to be a little theme of this video. Rookie wide receivers are moving up in a big time way. Brian Thomas Jr., phenomenal game here. You get the 9 targets, 6 receptions, 86 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. You have about 22 points dropped in week 4. And to be honest with you, if you were watching this game, we were much closer to a bigger performance. There were multiple times where Thomas beat his man, where he drew the target, including what would have been, I don't remember if it was a 30-yard receiving touchdown, 40-yard, a deep receiving touchdown where Lawrence just overthrew him. That connects. That ball is a foot closer to Brian Thomas. All of a sudden, you're not looking at the 22-point week. You're looking at a 36-point week for Brian Thomas. Going into the future, I will say that the target share in this offense probably does scale back just a bit because everything over the past really 3 weeks now has only been funneled through Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas Jr. You had some Gabe Davis mixed in a few weeks back, but especially the past 2 weeks here, everything's Kirk, everything's Thomas. As we get Evan Ingram back into this offense, and at the same time as Gabe Davis gets healthier as well, I would expect the target share to be dropped for both Thomas as well as Christian Kirk. But with Thomas being a rookie wide receiver, goes round 1 in the NFL draft, I don't see how we can expect him to not continuously progress as the season goes on. And this is pretty much the worst case scenario in terms of total points scored for Jacksonville, where they are sitting at 0-4. Trevor Lawrence has looked really bad. I don't see how the quarterback play could get worse here. So going over to where we have him in our rest of season ranks, I moved him ahead of someone like Rome Odunze. I moved him ahead of Jackson Smith and Jigba. Obviously, we'll see JSN tonight. I'll be live streaming after the games tonight and updating our rankings during that stream as well. And we have him right behind guys like Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, the alpha wide receivers seeing pretty much every single target in their offense. But honestly, those aging veterans on the decline versus Thomas on the way up, I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas actually does continue to move higher. Now, going over to Ladd McConkey, I actually just traded for Ladd in the Flock League. Don't want a victory lap it. We gave away McLaurin. It's not like it was a phenomenal overall deal, but you'll see it in the Flock League video that comes out on Tuesday. With Ladd McConkey, you get the receiving touchdown. Now, to be honest with you, does his role in this offense change it? No. This is still the same player that we had through the first 3 weeks, right? He's still consistently at the very top of the Los Angeles Chargers in total targets. Yet again, he is this week with 7 targets, with 5 receptions, with 67 receiving yards. But yet again this week, the issue that you have in this offense is nothing to do with the receivers here. The issue that you have with this offense is the fact that the passing volume is non-existent. Yet another week for Justin Herbert where you have fewer than 200 passing yards. It may be better going into the future if we end up getting Joe Alt back after the bye. Herbert isn't limited due to the ankle after the bye. So I think this is like the perfect bye week timing that you have for the Los Angeles Chargers offense. But Ladd McConkey has established himself as the wide receiver 1 to a quarterback that I want to believe we're going to see efficient play from. I definitely don't have him as high as Brian Thomas Jr. just because I expect there to be more passing volume in Jacksonville. I have Ladd at wide receiver 37 in my rest of season ranks, directly behind Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, and directly ahead of Calvin Ridley and Jamison Williams. Now going over to Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy is the other rookie wide receiver climbing up these ranks. In a game where Rashee Rice scores 0 points because Rice goes down early, Worthy gets the long receiving touchdown. Was beautiful. but at the same time, he only has 4 targets. So I can't come out here and tell you, oh, Xavier Worthy today with no Rashee Rice is a must-start player. You have to jam him in at wide receiver. Instead, I think that he is still more so the boom-bust flex option. Now, definitely, I think we can expect that he's playing every single snap. He is out there running every single route on every Patrick Mahomes dropback or pretty damn close to it, because now you have no Hollywood. Now you have no Rashee Rice. I do want to reiterate, obviously, we had Worthy as that sell-high candidate after the week 1 blow-up game where he scored 20 points against the Ravens. But now that you have no Rice and you have no Hollywood, I think it's very easy to see Worthy finishing as a top 24 option. I currently have him ranked wide receiver 28 rest of season. I have him directly behind Jayden Reed and Jalen Waddle, and directly ahead of Amari Cooper and Terry McLaurin. Now, going over to DeAndre Swift, I'm not putting DeAndre Swift this late in the video because he's ranked higher than everybody before him. But no, because I think that he probably changes my mind more than anybody else did. I was almost considering dropping the dude. I started in week 1, got 5 points. I started in week 3 and got 6.2 points. Was freaking pissed. I mean, the man has been averaging 15, 16 opportunities a game, or at least he was through the first 3 weeks. That number now goes higher with 23 opportunities with the 16 carries and the 7 targets out of the backfield as well. But this is the story of the efficiency swing for DeAndre Swift, where through the first 3 weeks, the issue with Swift wasn't the volume. The issue with DeAndre Swift was everything to do with the efficiency in this offense. 3 yards per carry in week 1, 1.29 yards per carry in week 2, 1.54 yards per carry in week 3. This past week, you see that mark pretty much go up 4x. You also have the 72 receiving yards, leads the team in receiving. Looks like the locked and loaded starting running back. I've already won my matchup in the Flock League this week, so I was looking ahead to week 5 going, oh crap, I have Devonta Smith on bye. I have Ladd McConkey on bye. I'm going to have to start some gross names. And to be honest with you, I'm looking at DeAndre Swift now and going, okay, he's probably going to be my second flex spot. He burned me week 1. He burned me week 3, especially in a matchup against the Carolina Panthers, where this should be, a decent spot overall for running back points. We just saw what Chase Brown and Zach Moss were able to do. I think that he is back to being a viable play if you are desperate, how I will be this week. I have him ranked at RB 27. Now, another note is Khalil Herbert did not play a single snap, so this does appear to be going from a 3 running back by committee to a 2-man running back by committee. Now, going over to Derrick Henry, the reason Derrick Henry is not the number 1 riser this week is because it's hard for him to rise up too much, but of course, y'all know I am one to always make fun of myself and always take my L's. One of my hottest takes this year was Josh Jacobs over Derrick Henry. And after week 1, where Derrick Henry is outsnapped from Justice Hill, where Justice Hill dominates the usage, I come out and I make a clown out of myself going, oh my gosh, I told you. I told you. You wanted Josh Jacobs instead of Derrick. Yeah. The worst call that we can possibly make outside of maybe our Sam Laporta call. Laporta, please come through for us tonight. Derrick Henry comes out and just freaking puts on the show. Back-to-back games here with 20 plus rushing attempts. You see a season high 3 targets, 3 receptions as well. You get the receiving touchdown. You get the rushing touchdown. You get 36 fantasy points. And now Derrick Henry is officially averaging well over 20 fantasy points per game at the running back position. We have seen that, yes, in a game where the Ravens get blown out, Derrick Henry is probably not going to be a factor. But in a game where the Ravens are able to win from start to finish, which based off the past 2 weeks, it looks like this may be a very common occurrence for Derrick Henry. You are just going to see them lean heavily on Henry. You're going to see 20 plus opportunities. In terms of where we rank him rest of season, in a non-PPR format, he may be running back 1 overall. Non-PPR league, half PPR format obviously is much higher than this as well. In a full PPR format, where while I want to give the man all his flowers, he looks like he is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL right now, in one of the best situations in the NFL right now. We do need to at least address that he is averaging fewer than 2 receptions a game. He is averaging right now about 15 receiving yards per game. Actually, a little bit less. He's averaging about 11 receiving yards per game. So when you compare him to Bijan, when you compare him to Breece Hall, specifically in the full PPR format, you're going to get the higher floor with the running backs that are going to consistently see 5-6 receptions out of the backfield, with the additional 30-40 receiving yards that come with that. So I currently have Derrick Henry ranked at running back 9 in our rest of season ranks. Right behind Kyron, Jonathan Taylor. We're waiting for the Jonathan Taylor injury news to drop. Then we're going to move Taylor down the rankings. I just don't know how much we have to. So he's probably really running back 8, and I'm viewing him as that mid running back 1 in a full PPR format. But I do want to reiterate, of course, in a non-PPR league, he's much higher. In a half PPR format, he is higher. And honestly, we may end up throwing in the towel, moving him even higher in a full PPR league as well. Now going over to Chase Brown. Chase Brown is the number 1 riser this week in my mind. Where, yes, he goes from a player that in a couple team reviews in the live stream, we were able to see that he was on the waiver wire in some 10-team formats, which we were saying, go pick him up, go pick him up, go pick him up. The premium handcuff back if Zach Moss were to go down. Now he's more than that. He actually splits his backfield with Zach Moss, where you see the split right down the middle in terms of the receiving usage, in terms of the rushing usage. And Chase Brown now, for pretty much the entire season, has been a more efficient running back than Zach Moss on a per touch perspective. I was all in on Zach Moss this week. I was all in on Zach Moss last week based off the expectations that this is a very good offense. The starting running back in this offense should have a ton of high value touch opportunities. The Burrow is not a quarterback you have to worry about getting vultured from at the goal line. You don't have to worry about Burrow not dumping the ball off because he can run. No, you're going to get targets out of this backfield and you're going to get goal line rush attempts. That makes the starting running back here extremely valuable. And now it looks like this is trending towards a 50-50 running back by committee. So I think Chase Brown and Zach Moss will both be viable plays weekly if you are desperate for that running back too. But if one or the other were to go down or one or the other were to just take over this backfield, then immediately they become a must-start option. I have Zach Moss and Chase Brown currently ranked RB29 and RB30, and I think it's going to be the most interesting thing to watch this week with how the split is between these two backs. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, if you enjoyed this video, please go down there, hit that like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you wanted to check out that Tyreek Hill pick, and if you wanted to go check out any of those picks over there on Underdog Fantasy, you can find the link in the description and comment section. Code FLOCK will get you hooked up with a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, you'll get a free Tyreek Hill pick, more than less than half a total yard for Monday night. And on top of that, you'll be hooked up with a free team review through flockfantasy.com. All you have to do is make sure that you set up an account on flockfantasy.com with the same email address as your account on Underdog Fantasy. That way I can go ahead and hook you up with that free team review credit the following morning. But thank you again. I really do appreciate you. I really hope you have a great day and really hope I get to see you in the live stream later tonight after the game.